Okay, this video is about how to do a dilution. And so, when you need to do a dilution is if you are already starting off with a solution. So like let's say you have a bottle of acid that you buy from the store and it's already a solution and it might say like 12 molar on it. So you're already starting with a solution. But you want to dilute it down to make it into a weaker acid. So in order to do a dilution, we use what's called the dilution equation, and it goes like this right here. M1V1 equals M2V2, and like M1 is like initial, and so this side is like initially, like what you start with, and this is what you end up with over here. Now, so anyway, what you end up with is you're going to start off with a concentrated substance. You got to figure out how much of that you need, and then you're going to dilute it. So your molarity is going to go down, but your volume is going to be going up because you're going to be adding water. Okay, so anyway, this side M1V1 is the concentrated solution. This side over here is the dilute concentration. So anyway, so it says how many milliliters of 12 molar. So what we want to do is we want to take this 12 molar solution and we want to turn it into 100 milliliters. So when we end up, we want like 100 milliliters, but we don't want it as strong. We want it to be 3.0 molar. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug things in. Okay, so 12 molar, that's M1. So where M1 is, we're going to put 12 molar. We're going to multiply that times V1, but that's what we don't know. V1 is what we don't know. What we want to end up with is when we get all said and done is we want a 3.0 molar solution and we want to make 100 milliliters of it. So on a problem like this, you don't really need to change to liters if you don't want to. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 times 100 and we're going to divide that by 12. So if you take 3 times 100 divide by 12, you end up getting 25 milliliters. So V1, or the volume that you need, is 25 milliliters. So what you would do is you would measure out like 25 milliliters of the 12 molar. So you would need 25 milliliters of that, and then you would put that in a volumetric flask, which we'll review the procedure later, but there's a flask with a line on it. And so what you would do is you'd add some water to begin with. You would put 25 milliliters in of the HCl, and then you would fill it with water until it hits the line right there. Okay, well, we'll talk more about the procedure later, but for right now, you got to be able to calculate do these calculations. Okay, so here's another one. I want you to try this one on your own and then see if you can pause the video and see if you can do it. But it's a dilution, okay, because we're starting off with a solution, but we just want to turn a strong solution into a weaker solution. That's a clue that you got to use M1V1 equals M2V2. Sometimes people don't know what to do, but when you're already starting with a solution and turning it into a weaker solution, you need to use this equation. Alright, so pause the video here and see if you can work this one out. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug in what I know. So I know M1, which is 14.7 molar. What I don't know is V1. What I need to figure out then is how much of V1 I would need to make a 0.50 molar solution, and I want to end up with 250 milliliters at the end. So basically I'm going to take this times this and divide that by 14.7, and so then V1 would end up equaling 8.5 milliliters. Now I might have went a little fast on the first problem that I did. To solve for V1, you got to multiply 0.5 times 250 and then divide by 14.7. Okay, you got to move the 14.7 to the other side. So you would need 8.5 milliliters of the 14.7 molar solution. You would have a flask Usually a volumetric flask is the best tool to use, and so there will be a line on it. So whenever you're doing this, you always add acid. So you'd want to put a little bit of water in to begin with. Pour 8.5 milliliters of the acid would go in. So you add the acid in, and then you're going to top it off with water until it reaches the line. And when you've done it that way, you would have made 8.5 milliliters of 14 point, or 8.5 milliliters is what you would need. But what you would end up with, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, is you would end up with 250 milliliters of a 0.5 molar solution. All right, that's it for that video.